Hello students, Michael Sanchez, violin teacher here. So today we're going to be working on slurs and ties. This is a really important concept that every student needs to learn how to do on the violin. We're working through the Violin Tutor Pro Series 2 book. If you're watching this class after the fact, there should be a link right on the page you're on to retrieve the music. Okay, so let me first explain what a slur is. So a slur is basically a symbol in music that you're going to see very commonly in violin music that combines two notes into the same bow stroke. So the symbol is right here. It's basically a happy face. And whenever you see this symbol, it indicates that these two notes, the notes that are being slurred, or where the symbol is going to be in the same bow stroke. So instead of doing those two notes down bow, then going up bow, basically two different directions with the bow, they're both going to be going in the same direction. So this is what the first two notes of this song would sound like. Like that. So that was all one bow instead of two bows, which would look like this. Like that. Raise your hand if you guys understand that concept, if that makes sense. Looks like most of you. So basically we're keeping the bow moving the same speed. We're not changing the bow speed. And we're just changing the finger while we're doing the same bow to achieve a slur. So we have quite a few of them in this first song, the rocking beat. And then we basically do the same thing coming down. We do have a repeat sound. I want to make sure you guys know what that is. That basically just means that we play this twice instead of just once. So whenever you see that symbol, it's a indicator of a repeat. And then you play the first line twice, and you go to the second line, then you actually repeat the second line twice because of the repeat, because you go back to that symbol. Repeats are played within each of those symbols. Okay, so yeah, this is a really good piece for working on fourth fingers and for working on slurs. So one tip I'll give you guys for slurs is making sure that you're not gripping the bow too tight. It's really common for students to grab the bow harder because they think that's going to help them achieve a smoother or better slur. And it's actually the opposite's the case. You have to actually have a lesser grip and more of a relaxed hand on the bow as you're doing the slur. So make sure that your fingers are curved, as relaxed as possible. And the key is to achieve a smooth slur and not a jerk slur. So the bow speed should be consistent, both going down bow and up bow. So the same speed that I'm going to go down bow, I'm going to go the same speed up bow with the next slur. Okay, let me go ahead and go through it. I will not take the repeats. I'm just going to play the two lines with no repeats. Okay, ready, go. Like that. And to get the best sound possible, we want to never actually stop the bow when we're changing directions. I would find a lot of students do this piece like this. They're stopping after each slur. We want it to instead go like this. And I'm using the whole bow to do that. This actually might be a really good time to re-explain my yo-yo analogy, which is really good. It's a really good concept and comparison that a lot of people relate to. So basically my yo-yo analogy is that I try to relate the bow stroke to the same concept as what it takes to do a yo-yo. So to do a yo-yo, you have to have this certain wrist action that kind of helps to bring the ball up and down the piece of string, right? If you just throw the yo-yo down and don't really think about how to bring it back up, you're going to basically get it to where it just falls and you can't get it back up. So the same concept goes with the violin, and that you have to be thinking about the other direction more often than you probably are right now. You have to be going down, and then all of a sudden as you're getting towards the end of the bow, start thinking about the next direction the same as what you would do for a yo-yo. You're kind of trying to bring that momentum, that feeling of bringing it up just as much as you're bringing it down. Okay? So this really applies to slurs, as if you don't have that concept, you're going to have jerky bow bounces and a whole bunch of other things that you probably don't want. Try to avoid using the shoulder when doing this exercise. It's the same techniques as we've learned in other lessons: extending the arm, bending the wrist coming back, using the index, keeping the fingers curved, and making sure that your elbow is in the same place on whatever string you're on until you cross strings. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the next song, number 13. But I want you guys to try to pay attention to some of the things I mentioned about, keeping the bow smooth, try to transitioning like a yo-yo, and just try to get as smooth a sound as possible using the whole bow. All right, let's do number 13. Ready, go. Like that. Now, if you do this properly, there really is no spots in this whole piece where you would use less than half of the bow. You should always be using at least half the bow and even more. Most of the time I was actually using the whole bow for each slur combination, and even the quarter notes by themselves I was using the whole bow. All right, well, let's scroll down a bit and see what else we got in store. So this next one, split slurs, is going to be the next exercise. Let's give that one a try. Ready, go. And as I was doing that, I noticed that my fingers definitely have no need to be raised up as I'm playing this last part of the song. So I put my first finger down, my second finger down, my third, my fourth. Now, if I do this the way that's most efficient, I would just leave my fingers down, and then I would lift up my 3 and 4, and then I'm already on my second finger. So there's no need to lift fingers. And actually, you really don't want to at all there, because it's much easier to just pick a finger up and you're there instead of having to find a note later. That's kind of a good example of many instances in violin where many students might not be as efficient when they're playing. There's no need to lift fingers up all the time. There's a better need to leave them down as much as possible and then only lift them when you have to. So raise your hand if that makes sense. That's an example right there of leaving fingers down as being an important thing. Okay, so 14, I'll have you guys work on that one. And I don't see why not we couldn't go on, as the next lesson is somewhat challenging, the last song there, maybe for some of you. But this is basically the same concept, only slurring eighth notes. So just as before, we were slurring quarter notes together. Now we're going to actually slur eighth notes, which 2 eighth notes together equal 1 beat. Nothing changes with a slur, just that it's going to be done bowed differently. So before, you would play this as a down bow, and then this is an up bow if it didn't have the slur. But now you're going to do them both down bow and then the next 2 up bow, like that. So let's just take these 4 notes and see if we can do these properly. So you're going to move about 3/4 of the bow down, 3/4 of the bow up, and it's just that your fingers are changing to be able to achieve those eighth note slurs. So it's going to sound like this. Like that. So that's something to work on there. And then there's some other ones that follow. And I've mentioned before, just kind of staying organized with your bow. Just try to follow what I do for those of you guys that are live here. But yeah, typically when I have two eighth notes slurred together, I'm using about 3/4 of the bow. All right, let's try number 15. Ready, go. It's like that. It's kind of a nice song. I think I wrote that one. Okay, let's go on to the last one, Winding Waterfall. Scroll down a bit here. Okay, so now we have kind of everything combined together regarding the eighth note slurs, half notes, everything that we've done, and it's allegro eventually, so you'll work up speed. We also have the first and the second endings. So if you remember from a previous lesson, we either play the first or the second ending, but we don't actually play both of them through, all the way through. So the path that you would take is you would play this line, you'd go up to here, then you would choose either this or this, but not both. Let's say you chose this. Then you'd go back to the beginning after you play that first ending, and then the second time through, you would skip to the second ending. The other way to do it, if you want to just get through this as soon as you can, the fast way would just be to play this, play to here, skip the first ending, and just play the second ending. So that would be the other option. That would be for people that just kind of want to get it done quickly, which is actually what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take the second ending. All right, number 16, here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Like that. And what's going to make it sound the best is if your bow is moving at a nice even speed. You're not actually stopping the bow for the slurs like we talked about earlier. So if you're not quite doing that yet, you might want to lessen your grip and use more of your wrists to bring the bow back. Make sure that your pinky and thumb are curved. That's really important. Just anything that's going to take to lessen tension up against the bow, which will make it sound smoother. To actually cross strings, make sure that your elbow is changing pivot points. So on the D string, my elbow, my right elbow is about even with the instrument. And then as I go down to the A string, it's below the instrument. And then if I'm on the E, which we haven't learned, it would be at my side. In the case of the G, which we do have in this piece, the elbow should be above the instrument. So at the beginning of this piece, I'm starting off with my right elbow about even with the instrument. Elbow goes above the instrument. Back to even. Now below the instrument for the A string. Back to even. Back lower. So if you really make sure that you guide the string crossings with the right elbow, you're going to find that you're not going to hit other strings as often, and you're going to get a cleaner sound. All right, so that was number 16. I think that's probably the last one that I'll have you guys do. So if you guys have any questions throughout the week, feel free to email me at michael@superiorviolins.com. We've been doing these classes every Monday night at 8:30 Eastern Time. So for those of you guys that are watching after the fact, you guys will join maybe next week. All you have to do is sign up in the webinar tab of the website, violintutorpro.com, and it's going to give you the option to join us next week, and it'll give you all the details of how to get into the class sent to you via email once you register. Great. Well, I'm going to hang out with some of the people that came for the live class right now and kind of answer some questions that they might have about violin. And then hopefully we'll see some of you other guys at a later time. Have a great night.